Hi folks, Padre Phil here. Aren't people revolting? No, I mean, aren't people revolting? We seem to be living through a period where it is the in thing to rebel and revolt against all forms of authority. We hear in this day that the police must be defunded, the media have to be challenged, the BBC must lose its licence fee, the government must fall, history itself must be rewritten, and those of us who think otherwise have to be cancelled. In the last while, we have seen race riots, racial protests, climate protests, Brexit protests, anti-capitalist protests. Yes, I bet you'd forgotten about them too. And we are living through an age of protest. Of course, being a Protestant, do you see what I did there? I am aware that protest can sometimes bring change. Sometimes protest is good. But the kind of protests we're seeing in this day and age are not the constructive and broadly peaceful protests of things like the civil rights movement, though sometimes they think they are. Modern protests seem to be about tearing down, not building up. They are destructive, not constructive. They seem to be deliberately antagonistic, sowing division rather than driving unity. They set people apart rather than bring people together. They bring violence, not peace. Why is that? Why are we so divided in this day and age? There is a little passage in the Bible, in Hebrews chapter 10, that says, "Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another towards love and good deeds. Let us not give up the habit of meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." Let's not give up the habit of meeting together, as some are doing. I've been thinking about that verse for a while now, because of course coronavirus means that we have had to give up the habit of meeting together. Churches are closed. And in order to keep in contact with one another these days, we've been driven to things like YouTube, social media, Zoom meetings, and all the rest. But social media isn't social. There is a distance between me and you over this medium. Our response to coronavirus has had a massive impact on our ability to socialise. Families have been split apart. Friendships have had to be conducted at a distance. Pubs and restaurants have been closed. And at work and in public, we are still socially distancing and or wearing a mask. We've been encouraged to regard other human beings as potential threats to our own survival. And so every social interaction brings a sense of suspicion. That suspicion is increased with things like wearing masks, so that those facial expressions we human beings rely on in order to judge another person's intentions can no longer be seen. In these circumstances, we are not able to meet together as before. And yet not meeting has consequences. Not being social has consequences. Being socially distanced from other human beings has consequences. Much of the modern protest movement is driven by social media. It's driven by distance. And distance fuels suspicion. Distance fuels hatred and division, and ultimately violence, because we are not connected enough to the other person. The reason the Bible tells us not to give up meeting together is because distance drives division. The rancor and anger at the heart of the modern protest movement is made worse by the situation we're in now and the distance that there is between us. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus says, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also." We are to love our enemies. We are to turn the other cheek. It's very difficult to turn the other cheek when you're 2 meters apart and wearing a mask. And yet all of these restrictions upon us have been necessary to protect life. But now, as these restrictions are lifted, you and I need to get back into the habit of meeting together. We have to take the tension and suspicion out of our society. As Hebrews says, and let us consider how we may spur one another towards love and good deeds, and not continue to sow those seeds of division. Protest can be a good thing, and we should stand against that which is wrong in our society. Jesus himself was a revolutionary. The message he brought in his day was a challenge to authority. Yet the ultimate message of Christianity was not the toppling of statues to historical figures, but rather the erection of a cross and the sacrifice of a person. The message Jesus brought wasn't a message of individual rights or social justice, but a message of personal sacrifice and love for your enemies. Social justice doesn't work unless it's social. I leave you with 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And now it says, I will show you the most excellent way. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. As we become social again, we must practice love, even when people are revolting. God bless. Ta-ta for now.